right.
Ready? Is that the right camera, by the way? The one in the center? That one? With the higher one?
Yes.
All right.
All right. Well, let me say welcome tonight. I am honored to be a part of this first debate of course, special election for Roswell City Council post number 1. Let me bid a thank you to the... We're going to get it, y'all. I don't think it was my mic, but nonetheless, we will certainly get the technical aspect under control there. We'll keep moving forward, but we do want to say thank you to the Roswell Community Masjid for hosting such an event. It is so very important that our community, our city get to know the candidates that are running for City Council post number 1. Of course, you're going to get a chance to hear from them on tonight, but I want to give you certainly a general introduction of the candidates that are going to be debating on tonight. And of course, our debate is always a debate that is respectful of a person and that kind of thing. And so instructions have been given to our candidates. And so without further ado, let me introduce real quick to you Sarah Beeson, Jason Miller, Alan Sells, and Mohem Shabib will be running for City Council post number 1. I don't want to forget to say thank you to those who are in the house here, and of course those who are going to be watching with us online. We are thankful that you're with us on tonight, and I promise you that you are in for an informative time so that you can cast an informative vote in November. All right, so without further ado, we're going to start tonight with our candidates introducing themselves. We're giving them a couple of minutes to do that, and we're going to start with Sarah and move to Jason, Alan, and then Mohim.
Thank you, Dr. Strickland, and thank you for moderating this evening. Also want to say thank you to the Roswell Community Masjid for hosting this evening for our first debate. I also want to thank Councilman Zapata for his service and his family. My name is Sarah Beeson. I'm a candidate for post seat 1 for Roswell City Council. There's an old expression that goes, home is where the heart is. I've called Roswell home for the majority of my life. It's where I grew up. It's where my husband and I are now raising our 2 small sons. It's where my family started our small business more than 25 years ago. We grew it from 4 employees at our dining room table in my family's home to nearly 50 employees today. It's where I've served my community for numerous organizations, volunteering for Keep Roswell Beautiful, Children's Restoration Network. It's where I represented Roswell and North Fulton on leadership positions for organizations such as the National Small Business Association, Roswell Inc., Transportation Group, Advance Atlanta, and Affordable Housing Group, Abundant Housing Atlanta. It's where I've been an active participant in numerous city council meetings, and it's honestly where my heart is. In addition to working full-time alongside my family running an environmental engineering firm, I'm currently pursuing my doctorate in city planning at the University of Georgia. I have a Master's of Science in Environmental Management from the University of Maryland, an MBA from the University of Georgia, and I got my bachelor's at Georgia State while commuting from here in Roswell. I used to live in River Mill condominiums. I got my bachelor's in journalism with a minor in political science. I don't think there's any doubt that Roswell is my home. And I don't think that there's any doubt that Roswell is exactly where my heart is, which is why I'm running to represent Roswell as your next city council member. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Strickland.
Yes,
thank
sir.
you, RCM. Thank you for hosting the event. Again, I'll second what Sarah said. Thanks to Zapata for his service to the city council. I'm a different candidate. I am the candidate that I moved here my business here about 8 years ago with my business partner John, who's with us today as well. When we moved to Roswell, we started with 2 employees. It was him and myself working out of our basements, and we started off in Cobb County and finally made our way to our business home now in Roswell. Since being here, we are now still a small business. We are employing about 27 people. Some of those are across the country. Most are here in the Roswell area. They report to the office every day. They support our tax basis, which was always the goal of what we wanted to do. I think I am your pro-business candidate, especially considering the small business environment that I exist in, that I cooperate in with current dealerships. 92% of the businesses in Roswell are defined as small businesses, and that's with 20 or fewer employees. So I understand firsthand what it's like to be an entrepreneur, starting a business, trying to grow that, especially in challenging economic conditions. In 2008, when we had the economic crisis and we were doing cash for clunkers for cars in the automotive industry. Then we had the COVID breakdown for about 2 months, which fortunately we kept our office open. We kept people reporting to right across the street, actually, to Warner Marketplace, them here working and generating a lot of good product. I am originally from Mississippi. I relocated to the greater Atlanta area in 2003. I have a bachelor's in business administration and accounting, which I have parlayed into a successful company now based around auditing and financial exploration of automotive dealerships and helping them succeed. My goal and the reason I'm running is because it's time. Roswell has been very, very good to me and my family and my company. It is time for me to give back, and that is what I intend to do. I believe I have the most to offer, so I'm excited to meet with all of you and talk more over the next few weeks before the election.
Thank you so very much. Hasten.
Thank you, Roswell Community Masjid and Dr. Strickland for organizing and hosting this event, and to the other candidates for being here. I would especially like to thank Selena Zapata, Marcella's wife, for being here and for befriending Rhonda and I as we began this journey. I really appreciate that. I should point out that yesterday was the 60th anniversary of the first televised presidential debate. And I should say, you know, Nixon was there, Kennedy was there, but although my children may think that I was old enough to be there, and notwithstanding the youth of my other campaign partners here, I assure you, Dr. Strickland, that I did not moderate that. I'm Alan Sells, and I'm running to complete the term for my Horseshoe Bend neighbor, Marcella Zapata. Ron and I have lived in Roswell for 27 years at 4 addresses. We raised our children here. We have carpooled sweaty, smelly Roswell Hornets around to football practice and sweaty, smelly Centennial Knights around to football practice. We love Roswell, and we have sunk our roots deep here. I'm running because, like the other great residents of Roswell, I believe and I agree that every area in Roswell needs a voice in the future in this city. I am the only candidate from the East Side, and indeed none of the current council or mayor are from the East Side. So I bring a perspective of a united Roswell that's missing today. I'm also running because Roswell needs economic development, not urbanization. My real-world experience in corporate development and negotiating and completing large transactions applies to the issues that hit us where we live. And I'm also running because I stand for accountability, accessibility, and approachability. I have real-world accountability experience as an auditor for schools, for housing authorities, for cities, while I was a CPA with KPMG. And I also agree, like G.K. Chesterton said, we should keep our governments close enough that we can kick them in the shin. So I ask for your support, and I offer you my shin.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mulhan Shabib. My wife and I have lived in Roswell for 10 years. I'd like to start off by saying thank you to all of us who are running here. There's a lot of character, and there's a lot of integrity, and there's a lot of compassion at this table right now. So I've been really blessed to meet these 3 wonderful individuals the last 2 months, and regardless of where this election goes, I genuinely feel the city of Roswell will come out ahead. To give you guys a background of myself, I was actually the first person in my family born in America. My dad immigrated to America in the 1960s with about $2,000, the youngest of almost 10 kids and the only one to go to college. Roswell, I definitely feel I'm heavily invested in this city. My wife and I have 4 daughters, and my dad lives with us as well. So in my home, we have 18-year-old, 15, 12, and 7. And I see the city's perspective from everyone's perspective, from my kids, from my wife and I, from my dad. And the main reason that I'm really doing this, it's about my daughters. I'd love to be part of the decision-making process. As my daughters grow older, they say, Dad, Roswell's moving in the right direction. This is the city that we want to be in when we get older. So just that's what's driving this. Professionally, I'm a CFO of a company that their revenues are multiples of what the city of Roswell is. We've grown probably almost 300 million, 400 million in revenue in the last 10 years. Economic development is really important to me as well. About 2 years ago, I was appointed by Governor Kemp to the Georgia Department of Economic Development. That's something I'm really passionate about. That's something I'd love to use those relationships to enhance all of the city of Roswell. Transparency is obviously very important to me as well. I'm a CPA, and one of the things I think that makes my candidacy unique is I'm the only candidate that's not accepting any real
All
money
right.
from anyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. All right, thank you. Well, we've been introduced, of course, to our candidates, and we are anxious to hear what they have to say about the city of Roswell and how they're going to add to, if will, our city and what our current mayor and council is doing, and of course, overall for the vision of the city of Roswell. So Sarah, our first question tonight, I'll begin with you, deals and centers around growth. And of course, want all of you to give you all a chance to answer this question, but here it is. What are your thoughts and ideas on growing the tax base here for Roswell?
Growing our tax base at the commercial level is going to be imperative for our survival. It's going to take stress off of our homeowners and the taxpayers who pay property taxes here at the residential level. And we need to focus on economic growth, especially in East Roswell. When we diversify the number of businesses, we diversify our tax base. I think anybody with a slight hint of a financial background, like about everybody on this stage, knows that when you diversify your portfolio, you're more economically resilient. That includes also supporting a code that gives us a competitive edge in order to recruit those businesses in Roswell. I know in recent years we've increased slightly our business taxes here. And in order to recruit businesses, we're going to be able to need to keep that at a competitive rate to be able to recruit businesses. East Roswell specifically is an area that's experiencing a lot of commercial blight, and that's an area that I would especially like to focus on. In terms of growth, these are areas that we need to be able to have community-oriented areas. So not only just shopping centers, which is what we have now and what's frankly dying, but community-oriented development where we can have mixed uses, where we can have different types of businesses, not just your chains that we typically see, but be able to foster have a creative incubator for businesses here in the East Roswell area. One creative idea that I would have personally is creating a CID, or Community Improvement District, for our East Roswell area. For those who aren't familiar with that, according to Georgia code, up to 2% of taxes on commercial properties only would be additionally levied and then set aside for a community improvement district and be controlled by that community improvement district for infrastructure projects, community-oriented projects, as well as some of the public safety and live, work, play components that would make it more of a true community and a true neighborhood, as opposed to an area that's currently struggling with its commercial growth.
All right, Jason, what about you?
Thank you. Economic development is near and dear to my heart. That is actually what got us to Roswell to begin with. One of my plans is to revisit the Opportunity Zone tax credit that the city of Roswell offered in conjunction to locating businesses that created 2 or more jobs, and those provided tax credits for us to reinvest into our business. That in and of itself is what catapulted us to be able to be where we are today. Those sort of incentives are what we have to attract small businesses and encourage them to develop. In addition to that, the East Side, looking at the 2020 East Roswell Economic Action Committee report, that hasn't had a lot done to it. This actually piggybacks off of a 2005 Holcomb Bridge study. So for the past 18 years, 17 years, we've struggled with the same conundrum that we're in. I think we need more office condos to encourage these entrepreneurs to get out and start their businesses, especially with our current work from home situation and our commercial office spaces. It's generally a little bit more difficult to fill.
Thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate that. All right, Alan, what about you? How would you answer that question?
Roswell is definitely out of balance We have 30% of our tax digest in commercial and about 70% in residential. And the cost of that means that the residents are carrying more of the tax burden. So we've got to bring more businesses. It costs about 40 cents per dollar of revenue to have services to a commercial, and about $1.45 to $1.50 per dollar of tax revenue for commercial or for residential. We need to bring that into balance, and the way we do that is not by replacing a small and thinly capitalized business in a failed strip center with another one. We need to attract destination employers and destination corporations that act as anchors and provide a flow of customers to these small businesses on the east side in particular.
All right. Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much. Moham.
So one thing I'd like everyone to do to consider, it's a lot harder to start a business in Roswell than it is in neighboring cities. If you go to the City of Roswell website and look at the process for starting a business here and compare that to neighboring cities, whether Johns Creek, Milton, Alpharetta, it is honestly a lot harder to start a business here than it is in neighboring cities. So I think that's one thing we definitely have to look at. Another thing that I'm a big advocate for in regards to economic development is bringing businesses to Roswell that increase our tax base but don't increase our traffic. And a small example is Alpharetta. There's 700 IT companies in Alpharetta. We have 100 IT companies in Roswell. Those are opportunities to bring these businesses here, increase our tax base, and a lot of these jobs can be done remotely. So you're growing your tax base, you're building your economy, and you're not impacting traffic. So those are things that I'm heavily advocating for.
All right. Thank you all for your answer. Now, so we talked about growth and growing tax base, and certainly as we think about growth, we also want to think about infrastructure, quite frankly. And so next question is centered around infrastructure. And we'll begin with you, Jason, if will, on answering this question. And simply this: how much of the additional tax revenue would you spend on infrastructure, and where specifically would you apply it?
It's a great question. I do believe that with increased tax revenue, that is the ultimate question, is how do we improve transportation and getting from east to west corridor? That is our biggest challenge through the Holcomb Bridge area. I know the BRT, that's in the works. That's a MARTA program. The bus rapid transit, there's going to be stops underneath 400 to ease a little bit of the congestion and bring more workers to our Holcomb Bridge corridor. Outside of that, we need to make sure our roads are maintained. Our transportation department and public works department do great jobs actually, but our roads do need a little maintenance. As far as redeveloping roads, I think our biggest bet right there is going to be east-west connector. It's going to have to be projects such as Sun Valley 3, which gets us over from, again, the east to the west without using the Holcomb Bridge corridor. Outside of that, I think infrastructure development, like the biggest thing, I think, well, that will alleviate a lot of effort, especially in city services, would be to locate a police precinct on the east side. I think that's needed just for the sanity of our officers, instead of having to come all the way from, for example, as far east as you can go, all the way back to City Hall is a challenge, especially in traffic. And I think if we give them an opportunity to work out of East Roswell, that'll provide a much better quality of life for them. And I think that'll allow our emergency responsiveness to be much, much more improved. We also have, as part of our bond packages we are touching on, there's going to be some infrastructure improvements if those are passed, including a new 911 center. So those infrastructures alone will help improve our overall strategic vision as a city to provide a safe and healthy, happy city. Again, traffic is our issue, big one across Holcomb Bridge, and that is going to be managed mostly by careful coordination of traffic signals and making sure that traffic is flowing correctly. I know there's a couple of residents that have talked to me already about some ideas on improving either turning lights, changing the rotation of those lights, and just those simple details alone will help us improve our infrastructure and help us improve.
Thank you so much, Jason. Wow, wonderful. All right, Alan, what about you? How would you answer that question?
Yeah, the first thing is you said that more tax revenue is coming from commercial growth. That's a high-class problem, and then we get to decide as citizens how to reallocate that and use that properly. We, of course, have on the referendum this time, there's going to be a bond referendum, as Jason mentioned, that gives us the opportunity to vote on these issues and decide what we want to do with respect to that. Traffic is clearly the biggest infrastructure problem we have in Roswell today. When people talk about the top reasons that they don't move to Atlanta, and Roswell included, is traffic is the #1 reason that they don't move here. 70,000 vehicles a day go through that 400 Holcomb Bridge interchange. It's very, very crowded and very, very difficult. So I support the 2 north-south bridges that are on the plan to do, and those will relieve a lot of the pressure on Holcomb Bridge. They also will open up more commercial opportunities on the east side, so I definitely am for that. But
Thank
we
you.
also,
I know that the time is moving, but thank you so very much. I appreciate that. Now, Moham, so same question, how much of the additional tax revenue would you spend on infrastructure, and where specifically would you apply it?
Sure.
Just right off the top, what's your top?
Yeah, just absolutely. Just to echo what everyone mentioned, traffic is such an important part of our city. Right now, the majority of our residents who live in Roswell and don't work inside of Roswell. So we have to invest in our infrastructure. We want to do so in a way that we build our community, improve the quality of life for all the residents in the city, not just the homeowners, but the renters as well. And I'm a big advocate of just investing in the city, investing in our community, but not changing the charm of what makes Roswell special. So that would be my answer.
All right, thank you so much. Well, Sarah, what about you?
I can't give an exact dollar amount as to how much of the tax dollars that we would be allocating to it, but to be economically resilient, we also need to be environmentally resilient. We need to be able to address some of the stormwater management issues that we have here in Roswell, especially because we do have the largest percentage of river frontage in the metropolitan Atlanta area, and the Chattahoochee River serves at least 70% of the metro area for our drinking water. So being able to use bioswales like we've done at Roswell Area Park, and be able to divert a lot of that rainwater is going to be helpful for us moving forward, especially as we continue to have, like we're going to have this weekend, catastrophic weather events. Additionally, we need to be able to improve connectivity, as everyone's touched on. I don't think anyone's shocked that traffic is an issue here in Roswell. But in addition to our roads, we also need to look at our sidewalk connectivity. We need to get people out of their cars. That also includes bike lanes. I mean, continuing that bicycle lane and pedestrian pathway network, so that we can continue to walk and bike places, especially for those of us who live, work, and play here. And we need to have more community-oriented areas.
Thank you so very much. All right. Well, as Sarah's brought up, a point of reference to the environment, right? Environment is so very important. So let's talk a little bit about that. And Alan, we'll begin with you. And here's the question. When planning for growth, all right, because we're talking about growing the city and all that good stuff, and so when planning for growth, what priority would you give to reducing carbon pollution, expanding recycling initiatives, and promoting renewable energy?
Sure, thank you for that question. You know, Roswell doesn't have a 3-decade-old recycling facility. We've invested as a city in that for many, many years, and that should be an important part of our future as well. As far as infrastructure going forward, clearly we need opportunities to connect the sidewalks, for instance, as Sarah mentioned, but also, you know, we need to give people jobs in Roswell, so they're not leaving Roswell and going through those incredibly crowded gateways that leave Roswell. So I would say that we need businesses that are friendly to our culture and our environment. So if you think about life sciences or medical research businesses, those are the kinds of businesses that we should seek to attract. And in particular, if you think of those as collaborative businesses that have typically a campus feel about them, low-rise, so they're not high-rise buildings often. They tend to be around areas and are attracted to areas like Roswell that have great green spaces, lots of parks. Those are the kinds of businesses that we should attract. They tend to have a light environmental footprint, and they're very good employers, which makes it better for the lifestyle and the life of our residents. So that's the key things that I would see.
Okay, thank you so very much. Well, Moham, how about you?
One thing that I find interesting, at least for us at home, the city of Roswell gives you 2 trash bins, the big gray one and the big blue one. One of the things that we've noticed at home with our 4 daughters, my wife and my dad, is when we take out our trash, we have recycling bin than we have in the regular trash bin. I just think that's a great thing. It shows you the direction that we as a community and as a city and as a nation are moving forward. One area that I feel that we can really strongly consider investing back into our environment is it has to do with the bonds. There's about a $100 million bond specifically for park and recs. And to me personally, if you invest in your parks, you're investing in your environment. So that's a big area for us to just create a healthy environment for families to live mentally, emotionally, socially. A lot of that starts with the parks, and a big way to get that moving the way that I feel it should is through the bond that is on the ballot this November.
All right. Thank you so very much. Well, Sarah, we're right with you.
All right. To Alan's point, not only do we need to increase jobs locally here in Roswell to decrease the number of cars on the roads, but we also need to be able to increase housing choices here in Roswell so that we're not displacing our current residents due to affordability issues. Our low-income residents are most likely to not only live here but also work here as well and take transit systems to be able to get to their jobs. So making sure that people are having to come from Gwinnett or DeKalb counties to come work their jobs here in Roswell. I'd like to continue to improve walkability again with bicycle commute options. I'd also support expansion of our rechargeable stations through a partnership with Georgia Power, which is currently an option that Roswell could take further advantage of. They do provide the rechargeable stations for electric vehicles. I'd also like to build upon our robust recycling program by providing expansion of our to create a composting program, which can be done at our transfer stations for solid waste.
Wow, thank you. Jason.
Sir, I think the simplest way to reduce carbon emissions is to bring businesses here and bring the jobs here in a live, work, play environment, such as mixed-use facilities where we can have office space, we can have retail space where the people can live right where they work. So that'll reduce a lot of the traffic footprint that we, or the traffic that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Our recycling program is phenomenal. I think our team does a great job in the city, and I'm very proud of them and how they handle our recyclables. And us too, we do note that our recyclables are quite more than our trash. Secondly, we've got to be a little bike friendly. As long as we can continue improving our bike access and our bike paths so that people can commute from their home to where they work via bike, that would be fantastic. The third and most important thing that we need to do as a city is maintain our tree canopy. Maintaining our tree canopy and our overall environment will help us eliminate a lot of those, offset at least a lot of those carbon emissions as much as possible. I know the transition to EVs happening. It can be a slow ride to get there, but that's another option.
All right, thank you so much, Jason. Well, our candidates have talked to us about, growth around the city, infrastructure around the city, even the environment around the city, that kind of thing. Now we want to kind of get just a little bit more up close and personal to you candidates. And so this question has to do with your leadership style. So Mulham, if you'll describe for us your leadership style and why you feel that leadership style, your leadership style, would benefit the city of Roswell, would benefit our current city council.
Sure. My leadership style, I would say, is very simple. I believe in surrounding myself with people who are very talented. A lot of times people are intimidated to surround themselves by people smarter than themselves. I'm definitely the opposite. I would love to always surround myself. We do it at work, everywhere. Just try to find the most talented people that you can. Doesn't matter if they have a degree, don't have a degree. Look for people that are ethical, that have character, that have personality, that have integrity, that are willing to work hard, that are willing to listen, learn, and so forth. Somebody a lot smarter than me told me years ago, they said, Mulham, I'm going to give you some advice and use this in your life. You have 2 ears and you have 1 mouth. So listen twice as much as you talk, and that'll help make you a better leader. So that's something that I strongly advocate for. I learned a lot, I'll just say, when I moved to Georgia. Before moving here 10 years ago, I was living in the Washington, D.C. area. In Washington, D.C., I worked with a lot of people that, you needed a bachelor's degree, you needed a master's degree to get the job that you were at. When I came to Georgia, it was a lot different. And I'm seeing that here in Roswell. If you read the 2040 comprehensive plan, this comes straight from there, but Roswell has, if you compare the residents in Roswell compared to neighboring cities, those who are 21 and up. We have less folks with college degrees than neighboring cities, but that doesn't mean they're less people. So to me, part of leadership is just surrounding yourself with people that you feel, like I said, full of integrity, personality, character, compassion, strong work ethic, and then develop them, and you all succeed.
All right, thank you, Molham. We appreciate that. Sarah, how about yourself? What's your leadership style?
I'm a mother of 2 young children, a 2.5-year-old and a 5-year-old. So I would say that listening skills are very much a strong suit these days. In addition to being a good listener so that we can have a well-rounded view of the city, I'm also incredibly passionate. I don't think anyone in this room, if they know how I've been at council meetings, would disagree with that. But I am a firm believer that a team can only be as strong as its weakest member. And so being able to uplift and support those who are in need the most can only make us stronger, not only as a team, but as a city. I'm a team player. I like to work across division, work across aisles to try to identify ways that we have commonalities and to identify the goals that we all have in common and how to achieve them together. And I currently oversee operations for an engineering firm, so I'm incredibly focused on efficiency and I'm very fiscally minded.
Wow, thank you. What about you, Jason? Tell us about your leadership style.
Yes, sir. Gosh, ever since I was a kid, I've always been a leader. Somehow, some way, I found myself in some leadership position, whether that was through Scouts or whether that was through starting a company as a kid and trying to lead my friends on how to build a business. My leadership style is based on servant leadership. I do believe that as long as I serve my employees and I take care of the things that they need, I do believe that they'll be successful. I'm also a firm believer that everyone wants to contribute and be productive. We just have to take the time to show them how. That's why I like to lead by example as well. And that includes rolling my sleeves up. And what I tell them, I'll pick up the shovel and start digging the ditch and we'll dig it together. And then once we know how to do that, we can move on. Again, it comes down to service before self and really putting myself on the line with whatever they need. So it's taking care of my employees, taking care of anyone that I need to help get somewhere.
All right, thank you. Alan, tell us about your leadership style, how it benefit the city of Roswell, the current city council.
I will. I think I'll do it in the form of a story, if that's okay. Several years ago, I happened to be in a relationship with a friend of mine who had lost $12 million of other people's money. The business was bankrupted. I invested in that company and became chairman of the board. I put the top 3 creditors on the board. So it was the CEO who had lost the money, me, and the top 3 creditors were on the board. And in the 5 years I ran that board as chairman, we had 0 motions that were not unanimous. And the way I did that was by collaborating and being transparent about what we were about in every step of the way. They recognized that the only way they were going to recoup their money is if we built the company back. We kept our eye on the ball. We worked together. I like to say that the important business of board meetings or council meetings is the stuff that happens before the board meeting and the council meeting, where you're having the committee meetings, you're having the conversations.
Thank you.
Get everybody lined up on the goal.
All right, I appreciate that so very much. Thank you all sharing with us about your leadership style. All right, so I want to move to, of course, the social realm here. City of Roswell is a wonderful place to live. It's made up of many cultures, demographics, all that good stuff, and so it's a wonderful place to live. But this question comes to us from our community, and it's simply this, and that is, it deals with inclusivity, right? Inclusivity. And Sarah, we're back at you. I want to start this question with you. And here it is. It says, what kind of policies will you pursue to promote social and racial justice in our community? And how will you ensure that youth and minorities play a role in it?
I think many in this room know that I am quite a frequent commenter at Roswell City Council meetings, specifically on this topic. I'm incredibly passionate about housing choice, especially as affordability becomes increasingly harder to navigate here in Roswell and the Metro Atlanta area as a whole. We currently have a shortage of a variety of housing types, including our starter homes, which also displaces our local community. Basic economics, right? So you have a shortage of housing, you have high demand, it makes the price curve shift. And right now that price curve is shifting in the midst of increasing inflation and the possibility for a looming recession in the future. So as a city, we need policies in place that recognize these issues so we don't only lose our generational residents, we don't lose our workers, but we don't lose people who make Roswell who Roswell is. When I first moved here in 4th grade, I distinctly remember being the only brown child in my class at Mountain Park Elementary. And that was one of the reasons why I wasn't entirely sure if this was going to be the city for me for the long term. But over the last 10 years, we've seen an increase in not only racial diversity, but socioeconomic diversity, which is why my husband and I want to be able to raise our children here. Like Mulham, I'm the child of an immigrant. My dad came to this country in the 70s to attend college. My husband is Puerto Rican, we're a mixed family, and having a social scene that our children are able to be socialized in and get to know people who are different from themselves, but also similar to them as well, is incredibly important for me. We need to also support our current low-income residents through programs with Roswell Housing Authority. We can do that with funding with community development block grants, increasing points that we get with the city with HUD, and making sure that people are living in safe housing. I think that's an issue right now that's not only relevant to Roswell Housing residents, but also our renters, as well as those who are in houses that are increasingly more expensive.
Sarah, thank you so very much. Jason, I know that this is certainly a major question. It's a lot that goes into the question, but certainly we want to know what kind of policies will you pursue to promote social and racial justice in our community, and how will you ensure that youth and minorities play a role in it?
Great question. We are in a very culturally diverse city. I've seen that day in and day out as I traverse the city from east to west, north to south, meeting people day in and day out. And I'm very honored to have the time to meet them and actually hear their stories. To borrow from Atlanta United, I believe, y'all means all. We're all in this together, no matter your race, no matter your creed, no matter your religion, no matter where you're from, no matter where you're going. If you're here, you belong. And I believe that we need to implement ordinances and policies that strengthen that. It protects the weakest of us, for sure. We don't want to leave anyone behind, whether that is going to be in any number of ways to protect our diversity. How to help our youth? I believe we have a lot of programs that are built around our youth. Sporting programs, I believe that brings all the kids together in a unique and meaningful way to where they can learn to work and cooperate as a team. They can learn to cooperate as teaches them to be good adults and how they can advance their lives. Thank you.
All right, thank you so very much. Alan, can you answer that question for us?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I begin on a personal level. I live peaceably with all men, slow to speak, quick to listen, and slow to anger. And, I begin every conversation with the assumption, like I have with these friends here, that we are all doing this out of goodwill and we're acting in goodwill. So I assume that about people. But also, Roswell has rightly passed, I think it was 2 years ago, a rejection of racism, resolution about that, and seeks to remedy past wrongs. As I sat through several CDBG block grant meetings, and they were talking about how that's going to be redone or reused in the next 5 years, one of the things that's required of that is a study of impediments to fair housing, and in particular, how we make housing available to all of Roswell's residents. And I spent some time with the Housing Authority talking about that. There are lots of opportunities for us to do that.
All right. Thank you so very much. I know it's a major question. A lot can be said around it, and so
65 seconds.
So Mulham, how would you answer that question? Of course, again, just real specific. How would you?
Absolutely. Again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. There's a lot of character up here. I agree with a lot of what has been said here, just in this past question and other questions as well. But one thing that I would add, to build that sense of community with all of our community, I really think it starts at the top. So one thing I'd love to advocate for, we have a wonderful police force in the city of Roswell. We have a wonderful fire department in the city of Roswell. I know they're doing this, I imagine they're doing this, but I'd love to see this even be done more with city council, mayor, and everyone. Go to these schools. Go to the elementary schools often. Go to the middle schools. Go to the high schools. Let the kids, the young adults see us. And you know, leadership starts at the top. Addressing a lot of these issues that have been mentioned start at the top. And as leaders in the community, let's get out to these schools and let them see us and let us build these relationships that need to be built.
All right. Thank you so very much. Y'all, I know that was one of those questions that's kind of a compound question. You can answer it in many ways. So we appreciate your insight and sharing with us. I do want to talk a little bit about overall governance. And when we think about overall governance, one question comes to mind, and we'll start with Alan, I believe, here with this. Jason, excuse me. I'm going to start with Jason with this. And this deals with impact. What makes you a better candidate, all right, for Roswell than those who are running against you, your opponents? What's your standout, if will? What makes you the candidate?
I certainly believe I'm the candidate only because I can differentiate myself, and I think that I can reach across no matter where folks are from, no matter where folks are getting, where they're going. I do believe that I can connect with them. I do it day in and day out dealing with automotive retail. Those guys that own those dealerships, they're diverse, and trying to bring everyone together is always a unique opportunity. As far as being the better candidate, let me show you this. This is what Roswell's been working on. These are all plans that they put together in the last 10 to 15 years, and this is about half of them. We plan and we plan and we plan and we plan, mostly everywhere in our lives, in our city. We just don't take action. I like taking action. I don't like to wait. If we wait, we're gonna eventually fade away. We can't wait for anyone else to actually take action. We need to do that ourselves. As far as I believe I bring a diverse viewpoint into the city council that is missing. I do believe that I have unique talents, especially being your pro-business candidate, small business minded, how to lead effectively and create those small business jobs that will in turn build our tax revenue, will in turn bring more residents to our areas, especially if we can get the high quality jobs. What is difficult that I see a lot are lost jobs that we see losing to our sister cities. I talk about us being almost, we're the center of a donut. There's a lot of economic activity all the way around us, whether that's up north, down south. We're the middle of the donut, we're the donut hole, and we have to fix that. And I think with effective leadership, and we can get through these plans, I think we need to put our money where our mouth is and actually get them done. Anything from the River and Parks Master Plan to our transportation plans. There are master plans that have been put together, paid for, countless studies on how to make our city better, and we need to take action on that. Okay,
Jason, thank you so very much. All right, Alan, what about you? What makes you?
Restate that question.
I will. So what makes you a better candidate for the city of Roswell over and against your opponents? So what's your standout?
Okay, thank you. I already mentioned some of my board experience. I've been on a lot of boards and sat in a lot of teams where we had to lead things to change. Starting at the beginning of my career, I began my career at KPMG, and I was actually an auditor for housing authorities, for government entities, for school districts. So I have some experience that is on point about accountability at that level. I also have lots of corporate development experience, and I have led numbers of large negotiations all the way to completion. So I complete things, and I understand how to complete things and getting projects done. I have spent a fair amount of time in my own life as well starting businesses. I like to give one quick example, a business we bought in a small town where we became the largest employer, and the city worked with us to help us do that, taking a company out of bankruptcy and turning it around and becoming the largest private employer in that company.
All right, thank
64 seconds that time.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm proud of about myself, and I try to do this on a day-to-day basis, if I meet somebody, whether they're a CEO of a publicly traded company making millions of dollars a year, or whether they're working $8, $9, $10 an hour, one thing that they can expect from me is to be treated the same. I've never my whole life treated somebody differently, whether based on wealth, race, whatever the case may be. So that's one thing that I'm really proud of and I feel stands out about me. Regardless of where you are financially, background, you're going to be treated 100% with respect by me 24/7. Another thing I think that stands out about me real quick is I'm the only candidate here that was appointed by the governor to focus on economic development in Georgia. I've got some great relationships. I'd love to utilize those relationships for the city of Roswell and developing Roswell. And last, I'd say I'm the CFO of the largest company here. We have over 1,000 employees. Our revenues are multiples of what the city of Roswell is, and I feel those help me stand out.
Thank you so very much. All right, Sarah, what's your standout? What makes you different than your candidates or your opponents, those running against you?
Of the 4 candidates that sit before you, I'm the only candidate with city planning experience. I'm the only person who currently is running for Roswell City Council who has environmental management experience. And while all of us are executives for successful companies and have financial experience, I'm the only one with experience managing large-scale infrastructure projects that's soup to nuts in terms of budgets, assembling the team, and project deliverables. Additionally, of the experience that I have, I think that it complements our current city council quite well. We have 3 to 4 city council members who have significant financial experience, but nobody with city planning experience and no one with environmental management experience. And of the 4 candidates who sit in front of you currently, I have been the most involved and the most frequent commenter at our city council meetings. I didn't just decide to start participating once I announced my run for office. This is something that I've been civically engaged with for quite a while.
All right, thank you so
Hey,
very
I'd like,
much.
one point, I would like to rebut just a little bit
Okay.
on that if I could.
All right.
Yeah, I would say that I have real-world experience in this regard as it relates to city planning, and that is I was part of the team that brought the Thrashers to Atlanta and Phillips Arena. I wrote the board memorandum and the board resolution for bringing the Thrashers to Atlanta and building Phillips Arena for Turner Broadcasting.
All right, thank you
I'd
so
like
much.
to add one
All right,
thing
so
as well.
we'll go with Jason and then Mohan.
Thank you. I would like to say in response to that is I do believe that I understand that I've been a resident of Roswell for 2 years. However, I don't wait to get involved. I haven't lived here 10 years or more, 25 years in some cases, before I get involved in trying to make our city government better. Some of us have, I'm not trying to build a political resume and I'm not trying to work an agenda. I'm trying to get involved from the get-go because I don't want to wait. I want to make this happen.
Okay, thank you. Mohan, yeah.
Even though I'm a CPA and even though I'm a CFO, I would like to say I do feel I have a lot of environmental experience. I'm a CFO of a chicken company. If you can imagine the items that we have to deal with pertaining to USDA, EPA, wastewater, I mean, we deal with a lot of issues in the chicken factory. So even though I may not be an environmental engineer by background, I deal with these issues quite a bit. Whether it's legal issues, regulatory compliance, I'm heavily involved in a lot of things environmentally, being a CFO of a chicken company.
Okay. All right. Thank you all so much. So, having said that, and can you tell us in your own, from your own perspective, what is the most significant challenge? What do you feel the most significant challenge, our city is facing? What is the most significant challenge our city is facing? And Alan, we'll begin with you.
Thank you. That's a great question. We have talked about it, all of us have talked about the fact that we need to bring more business activity into Roswell. There's no question about that. We're clearly out of balance. As I said, it costs 40 cents for every dollar of revenue from a commercial real estate perspective, and it costs about $1.45 or $1.50 for every dollar of residential revenue, tax revenue. So we're out of balance. What that means is that we have to use other sources of revenue to make up that shortfall. So we don't have room in our budget to do the things that we would like to do to drive business or to change growth or to drive growth in our city. We have to spend money, like for instance, we took from the parks to finish Oxbow, for instance, and things like that. So we have got to bring that into balance. And I want to give one quick example. There is a piece of property that shall not be named, but it's Avalon, that not specifically talking about it recreating Avalon in Roswell, but the fact is the real estate value and the tax base of that one piece of property is roughly equivalent to the entire commercial tax base of Roswell. That's incredible. So we are out of balance in Roswell, and we need to start bringing and seek to bring those larger types of businesses to anchor this change. Virtually all of Roswell is a redevelopment project. There is very, very little raw land that's left to develop. So these older shopping centers need large tenants that bring traffic to the restaurants, traffic to the shops. That's the biggest problem that we face. We need to bring that type of business to Roswell.
All right, thank you so much. Molham.
I'd like to just echo real quick what Alan said in regards to Avalon. Many of y'all may or may not know this, but when there was an opportunity for Avalon to be here in Roswell years ago, there was an opportunity. What's taken place in Alpharetta, 10 miles north of here, that could have happened here in Roswell. Roswell chose not to pursue that. So just think what that could have done for our tax base and just the growth of the city. I would say one of our biggest challenges is, right now we're 95,000 people in the city of Roswell. If you look at our 24 comprehensive plan, the plan is to eventually grow to about 125,000 people. So how do we grow the city of Roswell? Infrastructure, environment, parks, entertainment, and so forth. Growing the city, almost 25% in the next few years without changing the charm of the city. Roswell's a very special city. We want to grow it in a way that we're not left behind, but we don't want to lose the charm of what makes Roswell special.
Thank you so much. All right, Sarah.
This kind of touches on points that the previous speakers made, but it's that Roswell is facing an identity crisis. We have folks who want to keep our small town charm, but then we want to have our Avalons. Without recognizing the fact that redevelopment in these areas, because of the lack of raw land, is going to need to be very strategic. But with this lack of vision and this lack of long-term planning and the essential identity crisis that we're facing, we have folks that want to have, the large-scale, interesting developments that are actually considered new urbanists. That would be Avalon. But at the same time not grow. So I think ultimately having a vision, which many of our surrounding cities have done a better job articulating and executing, is something that Roswell needs to get on board with. The running joke that I have is that you can't stand on a dock and a boat at the same time and expect to get anywhere. Roswell right now is standing on a dock and standing on a boat at the same time and expecting some sort of positive outcome from that experience. So we ultimately need to determine where we want to go and how we're going to get there, and growth is going to be inevitable.
All right, thank you so much. Jason, what about you?
I believe our most significant challenge as a city is actually taking advantage of our opportunity. We squander opportunity right and left every day. We've missed so many chances to be who we are jealous of other cities being because we didn't take action on the action plans that we spent so much money developing. We have to have a leader, we have to have the vision in the city in order to take action and get that done. We can't wait for development to come to us. We're going to have to go get that happening in our city. And we can do that, again, economic incentives for small businesses, economic incentives for even create economic incentives for employers to hire Roswell residents. I believe we have that opportunity as well. Again, our biggest challenge is we are squandering opportunity. Again, when I travel this city, I see it everywhere. Opportunity abounds around us, whether that is redevelopment on the east side, which we know we need in a bad way. We need some sort of attraction there. We have to do something that people want to travel to. We have to create a destination space, and I believe the east side is a great spot for that. We have a wonderful development around Canton Street. There's opportunities there, such as a performing arts center, where we could add something there to draw crowds to Canton Street besides for food or for shopping. Let's give them some other avenue and something else to do to generate more revenue. East side, I think we have a lot of opportunity around the Holcomb Bridge corridor and 400 to whether that's going to be a convention space, whether that's going to be something where we can bring businesses here to meet and actually generate, again, more tax revenue. As a small business owner in a company, when I try to bring people in, I don't have a lot of places to put them in Roswell. I don't have meeting space. I know we have a couple of hotels that we're working on that we will have built soon, but again, we need something to attract big business and conventions.
All right, thank you all. All right, so again, we've talked a little bit about, impact on city and all that good stuff, governance. Let's again move back to a little bit more personal space with you, with all of you. And we'll start with Molham with this question. But how would you like to be known as a city council member, right? How would you like to be known as a city council member? Sure. What is the, hold on, I'm going to expand it just a tad bit to give you, so what is the one, when we talk about known as a city councilman, what is the one value or personal strength that describes you best? Kind of takes us back to that first personal question that you have, so you can expand upon it.
Sure, absolutely. If I'm blessed and fortunate to serve the city of Roswell, one thing I'd like to be known for is somebody who, if I win, I'd rather win being myself than I'd rather win being myself than lose being someone else. So that's important for me. Just being who you see me here today is who I am 24/7. I'm consistent. I believe I'm personable. I'm pretty sure I'm respectable to everyone. So that's one characteristic I think that stands out for me. I don't need to win city council. I'd love the opportunity to win, but I'd rather win being myself. I'd rather, just win being myself, honestly. One other thing I think that stands out for me is my involvement. In the 10 years that I've lived in Roswell and the 12 years that I've lived in Georgia, I've been on the Chamber of Commerce board. I've sat on 2 school boards. And I've been heavily involved. I've coached my daughters in softball. I've coached them in basketball through Roswell Park and Recs. So I definitely feel I'm heavily invested in the city, and I just want to be known as somebody who's ethical, moral, compassionate, and full of character.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sarah, what about you?
It's cold in here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think ultimately I would want to be remembered as somebody who's ethical. I'm incredibly committed to transparency and accountability. In fact, earlier this year, it was Valentine's Day weekend. The agenda for our council meetings are typically posted Thursday, Friday evenings, and Friday evening agenda went up saying that mayor and council were looking at changing our city's charter. And I don't mean like they missed a semicolon somewhere. I mean drastic changes that we're going to allocate significantly more powers to mayor and council. With no previous work sessions, no prior readings. I notified my community, got some speakers together, and I was at that council meeting on Valentine's evening, missed out Valentine's Day dinner with my husband, about how that's not transparent and that's lacking accountability. And this is outside of the realm of sunshine laws and making sure that these discussions are had in front of our public. I want to make sure that any decisions that are made in Roswell's City Hall is made inclusively with the public, with weigh-in from the citizens. I also would like to hold myself to a higher standard in making sure that we're representing all of our residents here in Roswell. That's why you also hear me talk often at Roswell City Council meetings about issues related to affordability. Even though I do admittedly come from an area of privilege, a place of privilege. My mother grew up in public housing. My dad's dad passed away when he was 6 years old. Admittedly, my parents fought to get to where they are, and so I could have a great life. And I want to make sure that others are afforded similar opportunities so that they too can hopefully have the same level of success one day. So all in all, I'd like to say that holding myself to a higher ethical level is how I'd like to be remembered.
Okay, thank you. All right, Jason, how would you answer that question?
Gosh, my greatest strength is going to be attention to detail, and actually a second is getting things done. I tell my team every day, we need to go home with a win. If we can get a win every day, we're going to come back and do a better job the next day because we all want to win. What really breaks my heart is that in all the conversations I've had, all the city council meetings that I've been to, it's always the point that I always hear is transparency and accountability and ethics. That should just come by nature for everyone sitting at this table. The fact that we have to question our current leaders or question the current administration or prior administration for anything outside of those, if they're ethical, if they're transparent, or if they're accountable, that breaks my heart a bit. But as far as getting things done, I'm the guy that's going to roll up his sleeves and actually take action and go make things happen for us. I'm all in Roswell. My family lives here, my home's here, my business is here. We have a couple businesses that Roswell's been fortunate enough to help us support. Again, I'm your all-in candidate, and I do believe that my greatest strength is, again, getting things done and my attention to detail.
Okay, thank you so very much. All right. So, Alan, how would you answer that?
Yeah, I've been sitting here thinking about several things. The first I would say is that I think one of my superpowers in terms of thinking about government is that I really believe that you know best how to run your own life. I believe the government governs best, it governs least. I really do believe that. So I want to make sure that we empower the citizens, that we're listening closely, so that from that flows my view that I want to be accountable, accessible, and approachable, so that, you know, like I said, you can kick me in the shin. That's the real role of the city council member. This is like a super HOA. We should be citizens living together in a town, doing the things that make our city better. We're certainly going to be unique in ways, but we need to be united in our commitment to Roswell. So my superpower, I suppose, is simply that I see problems and I try to solve them with people collaboratively, and I think of the other person on the side of that problem, the other side of that problem, as approaching it with goodwill, and they're not striking some agenda. I listen carefully to what they have to say. And then let's figure out how to achieve the goal. What can we do that makes this work for our city together, and how we can do that? That's really where I want to focus.
All right, thank you so very much. Now, we want to give our candidates a moment to share with us some last words, final thoughts. Your last words, final thoughts to our audience here in person and those who are watching virtually, those who are online. And so we'll begin right back at the top with you, Sarah. So share with us your final thoughts.
Again, to reiterate, I think that the unique skill set that I provide would complement our current mayor and council, and that we have a lot of folks with financial experience that are current leaders, but we don't necessarily have folks who have experience with executing that long-term vision, with city planning experience, with overseeing major infrastructure projects. Ultimately, I think my continued resume of service in the city, whether it's for nonprofits, whether it's through leadership positions for numerous organizations throughout North Fulton and Roswell, or whether it's my involvement here in the community, simply speaks for itself. Again, to reiterate, home is where the heart is. My home is in Roswell, my heart is in Roswell, and I'm looking to represent Roswell as its next city council member. So I respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday, November 8th, to vote for me, Sarah Beeson, for Roswell City Council. You'll learn more about me at votebeeson.com, and early voting starts October 17th.
Thank you so very much. Jason.
Thank you. First of all, thank you again to RCM for hosting this event. Thank you for everyone that's here. Thank you for everyone that's watching this today and streaming later or reviewing later. I am excited to, let me back up a little bit. I mean, I'm from a small town in Mississippi, so I am privileged and honored to be here before you running for city council in such a city as Roswell, Georgia. That in and of itself is such an honor to me. I think that out of all the candidates, I have the one with the most time to give, to be honest with you. I think that my company's in a great spot to where I have great people. I have another, John, my business partner. He is fantastic. He can take the reins and let me focus more on the city and what's going to make us better. The second point to this is that out of all of us, I know a lot of us have financial experience, or my background's not that. My background's a chief executive officer and a president of a company that executes a strategic vision far beyond financial implications. I will also say I do believe I'm the only bootstrapped candidate here, meaning that I built a company from nothing into what it is today. So
Thank you so very much.
Can I say one more thing? Please visit me, jasonforroswell.com.
All right.
jasonforroswell.com.
All right, no worries. Alan.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you guys for hosting this. And, you know, I would say I have a lot of real-world practical experience in a lot of these things that we're talking about that face Roswell today and hit us where we live, whether it's negotiating large contracts and making sure that we achieve the goals. I always begin a negotiation by looking at the other side's needs and seeing what it is that we can do to make those people across the table from us achieve their goals, because we can't force companies to come to Roswell. We can only invite them. So that's why I'm running. I bring corporate development experience, negotiations and completing projects, auditing experience in government. But most of all, I am focused like a laser beam on the role of local government in our lives. Accountability, accessibility, and approachability. This should be where it flourishes, right here at this level of government. We should be able to approach each other and talk through our problems and be united as Roswell. That's what we should be about.
Thank you so very much. All right, Molham.
Yes, Roswell means a lot to me. We've lived here for 10 years. I drive almost 50 miles to work every day, one way. And the reason that I do that is because my wife and my kids love Roswell. It would be so much more convenient for us living closer to where I work. But that's how special this city is. And I want to also share, even though you may feel I'm far from work, we have a great team at work. We have support. I have support of our management team, of our owners, and so forth. So that distance has no impact on my ability to be city council representative. I'm doing this for my kids. It's the youth that really matter. We have twice as many residents in Roswell who are below the age of 18 than those who are above the age of 60. So this is really about our youth. They are the future of the city. I'm looking at this for my 4 daughters who live here as well. It's really about them. It's not about me or any, it's about the youth. I invite you all to visit www.yestoroswell.com. And if you have nothing tomorrow, I'll be at Lucky's Burger from 5 to 7. All of y'all are welcome to come.
Thank you so very, very much. Well, as we conclude our time together tonight, let me first say again thank you to former council member Zapata, who served our city, and we certainly appreciate his time and dedication. To all of our candidates here tonight, we certainly appreciate your time. Sarah, Jason, Alan, Molham, thank you for taking this opportunity to run for the city and to serve our city on post 1 as a council member. We certainly wish you the best of luck come November. Now, to all who are here and those who are online, we've heard from this wonderful group of candidates, and now our job is to take what we have heard, right? Take what we've heard tonight and cast a vote. And I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to go back and listen to what these candidates have shared with us. And come November the 8th, that Tuesday, get out and cast your vote. Early voting, of course, all that good stuff. But I want you to exercise your right to vote and cast your vote so that we might have a city council that works in our favor, a city council that works for the various communities that make up this wonderful city called Roswell. Thank you all so much, and of course to Masjid, Roswell Community Masjid, thank you all so much for hosting this event on tonight. God bless you all.
That was a good experience for everyone.
Huh?
That was friendly.
Yeah, that was good.
Thank you.
That's good.
If you guys are willing to do it, now our time is up in terms of streaming, but
Yeah,
if, you know, that's up to,
I'm open.
that's up to you guys.
Prefer true or false or multiple choice, but if we have to do fill in the blank, we can do that as well.
Certainly, certainly up to you guys. If y'all want to stay for a few questions,
Yeah.
do you?
I
you
think
guys
that's a
mind
great-
doing that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do y'all mind
Yeah.
staying for a few questions, or
I don't mind at all personally.
okay? If you